I might not suggest using email for this particular audience because they're between 16 and 18. And obviously, from a brand perspective, that's not really how you would want it to be. You would want to own the entire funnel, right, for your customers. It's a perfect example. I think 80% of your like classic media buying will be AI driven or is already AI driven.
Navigating social media can be, well, complicated. Welcome to the Social Media Sucks podcast from Kubbco.
Social media really sucks.
Where we unpack the latest trends and help remove the suck from social media.
Welcome to the Social Media Sucks podcast by Kubbco. You're tuning in for a dose of marketing and to get what's happening in the social media industry. We talk to the brightest minds in the marketing industry to bring you the latest insights. With me today is Rasmus Thomsen, who is a skilled professional with extensive experience in e-commerce strategy, marketing tech, and online marketing, including SEO, SEM, and then affiliate marketing. And then, as always, of course, we have our CEO, Chris Copponis. Thank you both for coming.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for doing this again, Rasmus. Those of you who don't know, we've done this once already, but we had some technical issues. So now we get a second round to try to get it right. So let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll say something more clever this time. And come
Maybe,
up with
or
better examples.
Maybe that's why we're recording it a second time actually. It's because Chris didn't say anything valuable, so we were like, fuck, we have to do it again.
It won't be any better.
No.
And welcome to the podcast.
Cast. Okay, guys. Let's just start with it's gonna be a little bit technical and maybe a little bit nerdy for some of the audience out there, but I know you guys have it in you at least. So can you tell us a little bit about how the businesses can shift from a channel first mindset to a more customer focused approach given the data that's available right now?
Well, the long story I'll spare, but the short story is that most companies already have this data available. Most brand and customers actually already know a lot about their customers and can actually use that data to bring insights to activities, to branding campaigns, to tactical e-commerce driven campaigns. So I think a lot of that is available. I think the biggest issue is maybe actually connecting those boxes that hold that data and actually understanding how you can use it.
Do you have any
when you say,
advice?
Sorry, I was going to ask, like, when you say what kind of data they have, sorry to cut you off, but when you say what kind of data are they actually sitting on? Like, what do they have?
I think they have, for e-commerce specifically, obviously they have e-com specific data in terms of product sold, unit metrics in terms of economy in their warehouse. They have customer insights in terms of who are actually buying, what is the frequency of buying, what is the size of their first or repeat purchase, what is their customer lifetime value, what is their frequency of buying in terms of how often do they repurchase. Then I think they sit on a lot of insights and a lot of data in third-party systems that might not be possible to integrate today the way it was before. But there's a lot of insights in demographics and geographics in terms of data that you can actually might not be able to integrate directly, but at least you might be able to actually get some insights into what is working and for who that you can actually take advantage of. So I think, and if you run campaigns, you have all that data available. So,
Nice.
How do you think we can improve customer lifetime value? How can we enrich the experiences we can provide in this data frame setting? And then especially, as we know, the black box is kind of shrinking in this day and age.
Well, I think the first step is actually acknowledging that most brands doesn't know. And that you might need some data crunching and actually getting that data available to you. But if you have sales data with customer connection, then Excel is your friend in this world. Obviously, there's a lot of third-party systems that can extract those data into the system and actually crunch those numbers. I think the problem is that you might not actually know that it's actually available to you. So you can build audiences based on frequency of buying, their buying habits, what did they buy last, what can you sell them this time. For those of you who didn't notice that we recorded a couple of weeks ago, I'll use the fridge metaphor again.
That one was
So
good.
if you
Chris was
bought a
fond of it.
fridge, yeah, exactly. So if you buy a fridge, when is it time to get your fridge accessories? And fun story for targeting. Same day, I got ads for fridge accessories, so they actually
Of course you
exist.
did. Of course you did.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not saying they're listening in, but yeah,
They're listening.
they
They're
might.
listening. We talked about this. Like they're definitely listening into what our conversations are and feeding us some ads. So
Yeah,
but
exactly.
but you're right. I mean, I think that what's interesting to me is you said like Excel is your friend, and I think some marketers run for the hills when they have to deal with Excel, which I appreciate. I'm one of those marketers that is not a big fan of Excel. I'm more on the creative side, but I do think like just crunching the numbers, just getting in there, understanding, okay, what is actually going on here, and thinking a little bit in terms of the customer pain or the customer needs and the journey that they're on after they purchase, or what things will they need and what things won't they need and when will they need those things. I think there's a lot of work that brands can do to make that even better and really focus in on that and provide the right marketing at the right time, so that you are hitting people that are in the market for certain things and not just wasting your marketing efforts on people that probably don't need that thing.
No, and I think a lot of it, well, it's easy when you're in an agency because obviously you have more than one client, so you don't work for one brand. So you don't use yourself as an example of how would I purchase this product. So you'll actually have to deal with Gen Z or Gen X customers and say, okay, so I might not suggest using email for this particular audience because they're between 16 and 18. So that might not be the channel for it. But I think a lot of it also comes down to, okay, so, well, my buying frequency of X product is this. So I'll use that as at a starting point, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the people on the other side actually look at it that way. And I think a lot of it comes down to actually looking at your own brand or your own customers from an outside perspective, and really getting your feet dirty. And that will require some Excel, but you will gain great insights into how the purchase behavior is so that you can actually use that to build even better creatives and better campaigns.
Yeah, I love that. And I think an important point is that, when we talk about different demographics or we talk about different, buyer types or different, personas, it's also important to understand that within that there's also cohorts and there's also, separate sort of buyer personas within certain demographics. And then on top of that, you have, some people like to consume emails. Some people like to consume podcasts. Some people like to consume video. Some people like to go down to the store. Some people don't like to shop in the store. So you really have to work on the data, work on, how do you also maximize each of those things so that you're able to reach people in the right places, right?
Exactly.
I'm curious to when we talk about all this data and how to find the data and extract it. There's also this GDPR and other privacy cookie issues that's leading to less control over data nowadays. Do you guys have any idea on how businesses can then innovate in their marketing strategy to kind of, drive around it?
Well, I think I'll go first. I think a lot of it boils down to what you're missing is the third party dependency. So actually having first part data, so actually owning your own customer data and being able to do analysis on that um, is obviously solving a lot of that issue. And then I think a huge missed opportunity for brands and in general is like zero part data where you actually go out and ask. It's like, why don't you NPS score all your existing and new customers, so that you actually know what is it that turns them on and what is it that turns them off, because that will give you better insights into how your campaigns are driving traffic and acquisition in general.
Right. Yeah, I think the first party data thing is interesting, right? Because so many brands have sort of given their data, not given their data away, maybe a little bit of given their data away to the platforms, Facebook, Instagram, same thing, but TikTok. And then even, giving that away to Jeff Bezos and other places because they don't own their own e-commerce platform or their shop, all their purchases or all their customers are in this, other e-commerce platform. And I think we've just seen that with the switch with GDPR and brands just saying like, okay, we need to own this data. We need to get on top of this. Otherwise, we're so far removed now from what our customers want and need that we are losing strategically on what products to develop, how to make a great offer, what to sell, when to sell it. And they're just, they're losing control of that. And I think we've seen a massive switch towards, okay, we need to own our own platforms, own our own data. And the GDPR thing has maybe helped accelerate that thing a bit so that they've actually like taken control of this now, which I think is smart.
Yeah, I agree. I think GDPR and all the like cookie legislation has obviously kind of accelerated it, but I think it wasn't like, well, before it was more a question of you didn't have to do it because you could actually just let the third party platforms actually drive your new customer acquisition. But now that data is not available to the platforms, and I see a lot of brands kind of saying, okay, but now we have zero insights, and the platforms can't help them, and they have no insights into their own customers. And I'll say, just like it happened in Norway, where the what do you call that, the data protection agency in Norway closed down like third-party integrations into Facebook and ads. If we see that in Denmark, I think a lot of like e-com only companies that are heavily reliant on actually driving growth on that data foundation will be fucked.
So
is that what happened in Norway though? Do we have a case from Norway where they've actually like had a real hard time growing new customers?
Well, they closed down. Yeah, they closed down for a period, so they kind of set the setup on hold to figure out, okay, so should we change the legislation to actually set some limitations into how that could actually work? But I don't know if that's gonna change in the rest of the European Union.
Okay, interesting.
So you mentioned this, right? As someone starting out in e-commerce, what data should they prioritize to have? When you say like some of them are just fucked if they don't have any insights, what should they specifically look for? Is it frequency, or customer value, lifetime value, all these sort of things? What do you think is the most essential that they have insights to about their customer?
Well, I think a lot of it comes from like one-to-one purchase data, because basically all those like acronyms can actually be calculated based on, who the customer is by name or email or telephone number or some account ID, and their purchases over time. And then from that, you can basically enrich that data, obviously. But you know what products they're purchased, you know the frequency of their buying behavior. So I think a lot of it comes to actually taking what's freely available to you as a brand. If you own your own e-com platform, and actually use that. I talked to a client today, like, okay, so maybe we don't want to ask if it's a man or a woman, but maybe first name indicates. Maybe we'll go in that direction to actually just use data that we have available. If you have address data, you can enrich that with household income. You can enrich that with other types of interest layers, and actually use that
So
to
do
enrich.
more with what you have.
Do more with what you have, and I think also maybe ask, because people are not reluctant to give insights into their interests or their buying behavior. And maybe you'd say, okay, maybe we'll do a competition, or we'll do a giveaway, and ask for information about how we can improve our product or our services. But maybe there's a question lying there that says, well, you bought a month ago, what will make you buy again? So maybe asking isn't, obviously you wouldn't get 100% of people responding.
Discount. I think
But
the answer will be discount.
yeah, yeah, it depends how you ask, right? It depends on how,
And what you buy.
if it's yeah, exactly. If it's back to the fridge, right? So you basically know what fridge they're buying. What type of accessories do you want? A bottle, or a bottle holder, or something else.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's smart actually. I never thought about that you can kind of make some assumptions. You can kind of also just start enriching the data more and more with certain things. Actually having like a data enrichment plan of some kind, like if you know that you're going to get customers in this way or that way, actually having a plan to, okay, this is the things that we can do to actually enrich this data and get closer to more smart, decision making regarding what to sell, when to
Yeah,
sell,
and
how
if
to
you
sell.
combine your e-commerce data with your email marketing data, then all of a sudden you know, okay, so maybe our frequency is too high on campaigns. Maybe we don't get interactions on all the send outs. Maybe we'll ask them what type of, maybe give them an option to set their own frequency.
Yeah.
Maybe you know that they're buying on discount. Maybe you wouldn't want to give them a new product launch if you know that they're buying on discount. Maybe you get better insights in actually segmenting your customer base based on how they interact with your brand or your product. If you buy a fridge every 5 years and that's the only thing you have bought, okay, so maybe not remind them that there's a new fridge on sale like 3 months later. Maybe not send them something that will just make them unsubscribe. Maybe send them
What?
something that is relevant, or maybe not send them anything at all.
You don't buy a new fridge every year?
If it's a
I
bad
thought everybody
quality
did that.
fridge, yeah.
Yeah,
If you buy bad quality fridges, then you might need to buy one every year.
yeah,
I don't
like
think I
a
bought a
fridge
fridge like
subscription.
every 12 years. A fridge subscription, yeah. We have a brand new business model.
Yeah.
Are you
New
tired of
fridge
having
every
the
year.
same old fridge every year after year? Get our fridge subscription model. New fridge every year, just delivered.
Yeah.
Actually,
But
maybe
then
it could work.
because then you don't
Yeah,
have to clean your fridge. I mean, then you actually, maybe you don't have to clean it as often. You just
Are you tired
dispose
of
it.
cleaning your fridge every year,
Yeah.
once a year? Then just get rid of it. Here's your fridge
yeah,
subscription service.
Yeah.
I love it.
yeah,
That's
Good
good
idea.
retention, though. That's good retention. And then
yeah.
that's a perfect segue into my next question, which is customer acquisition versus customer retention. Let's say it really depends on the product you're selling, obviously, but let's say you have created this new customer base. Should businesses in e-commerce keep keep their focus on getting more customers, or should they then switch gears to customer retention? Where do we put our eggs?
I think in the like the media landscape, and like we talked about before about how these data third party platforms and their capability of actually targeting people that are likely to buy. I think obviously it's not like I say, oh, you should not do new customer acquisition. I think a lot of what you can do is actually use your existing data or your existing customers to both obviously have a high retention rate in terms of pre-purchase, repurchase, or ambassadors on loyalty. But the more you know about how those frequencies are, the more enriched your new customer acquisition audiences can be. And you can base them on your own data instead of being like, okay, so we'll do interest-based targeting. So you might be able to say, okay, but I have an audience that these types of people actually are more liable, what do you call that? More likely to do a purchase. But it obviously depends on how much data you have. It's like if you have 1,000 existing customers and and you segment those down, then obviously your audiences will not be big enough to do any targeting based on that anyway. So obviously you need customers in your base to be able to actually do that and get something out of it. But I think a lot of brands are missing out on the opportunity to actually test how they can use their own data to do that, because a lot of brands already have that available.
Yeah, and it also depends on the brand. It depends on the product they're selling. Like there's a lot of factors in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always cheaper to retarget or get extra additional purchases, upsell existing customers. But if you don't have that kind of a business, then it doesn't make a lot of sense. But I do agree that like there's a lot of money left on the table usually, and maybe there's a lot of things that we just don't think of as in the brand as like something you can add in as an extra value add, or things that you can sell after the fact. Like maybe it's fridge cleaning services, like Samsung, like, you know what I mean? Like maybe it's not a fridge. Maybe it's not a new fridge every year, but maybe it's, hey, you can buy our fridge and subscribe to our clean fridge service, which comes in every 6 months and does a cleaning for you, and checks it out, make sure it's okay. Right. So there's a lot that you can do there in retaining customers that I think a lot of brands just don't even think about.
Yeah, I guess it also can inform you about your retention rate, can also inform you about your product, right? Like directly, like if you have a hard time retaining people, or if the retention lifespan is low, then it also tells you something about the product you have at hand, and it's a room for improvement, right? And then you can actually strategize around that and optimizing that retention.
Definitely. Yeah. Agree.
So nearing towards the end, I think it's relevant to touch upon the new technologies we have, like AI. So, given the speed of technology changes, the traditional marketing funnel, is it still relevant today in today's digital landscape, in your guys' opinion, especially in the AI and data analytics part?
Well, I think, yes and no. It kind of depends. I think
What
AI
is
is
a funnel
gonna
anyway? Nobody knows what a funnel is.
know that. Like, I read an article that like nobody actually follows that classic marketing funnel that agency have a tendency to try to explain, that you need reach to gain impressions, to gain clicks, to gain product views, to get purchases. And obviously it works on a like a broad scale. It works like that. But you can't optimize based on that, because your customers don't interact with your brand like that. So it is like like Google says, like a zero moment of truth. Like it is a big sort of a pile of interactions in different medias, physically, word of mouth, and at some point, one of those interactions will lead to a person buying a product.
So
It's different if you're in B2B, because then you can actually control that funnel very strict. But
It's getting worse in B2B. I think it's
and
like the funnel is kind of going away, but I do agree with you that I think it's just a conceptual thing that we think about, like in terms of, showcasing that you have a large audience here and only so many purchases here. And I think that's the only thing that it's really good for, is just understanding that you have a total addressable market, and then, it just narrows down for every sort of step within the purchase decision. But it doesn't do a good job of sort of explaining that that is a little bit of an infinite loop, and it is a little bit of a, people don't go just down a funnel, they go up a funnel, and they go outside of the funnel, and then they come back in, and then it's like, so it's not a very good sort of visualization of what actually goes on. But it is a good
no,
visualization of, like, you've got so many people, and then you're trying to get down to this smaller
yeah,
amount of purchase,
we use
right?
like the infinity wheel to actually explain that the data that you get from your retention setup after the purchase is actually something that you can flow back into your acquisition setup. But like the model would be way too complex to actually understand if you would actually say, okay, but people go in at first step, and then they go in at the third step, and then they look at the product at the fifth step, but then they go back because you have a brand interaction. But you need to be able to explain that customers have a tendency to actually try and follow that funnel in some way. I think it's best to indicate how some of these steps have a tendency to be missed out. So brands might have an opportunity to actually say, "Oh, but we do a lot of impression or reach targeted brand advertising," but they might be missing out on product details or searches on Google for specific things on their product, because they might be image or product driven in a sense that doesn't necessarily work for those type of interactions. But I
Right.
agree that it it doesn't really work that way anymore, or never has.
but I mean, you guys are kind of saying it's everything everywhere all at once, right? But you don't think it's because of the social media
Because
that's
of the
that
multiverse.
yeah, yeah, because of the multiverse, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Pun
Well, I
intended.
think exactly, but I think obviously, well, when I was younger, like Google was maybe the only search engine. It was the only way you could interact with a brand. It was like you started on Google looking for a product. You went to the website. Now I have 15 different social media channels on my phone, that obviously kind of want to interact with me, and brands will like to be able to put their products in front of me probably at the right time, but sometimes it's not really doable. Um, but brands but customers will have interactions across all those platforms. I just think that there's a multitude of platforms that people use for different things,
Yeah.
that affects this.
Yeah. And it's really hard to pinpoint what was the tipping point. Like, what is the, flow, and like, okay, should we put more money in SEO? Should we put more money in TikTok? Should we put more money in ads? Should we put more money in billboards or TV? Like, it's really hard for anybody to sort of get to that sort of, what is that ideal path to purchase. And I don't think you can, and I don't think we will. I mean, maybe we'll get to a place with digital media where AI will sort of sort out some of these things for us and crunch the crazy amount of data. But, with like privacy, like we talked about before, like the access to platforms, I think that, we will struggle a bit to actually put the pieces together, unless it's like in our own site, dealing with our own customer data, dealing with, that. I think we'll have a hard time figuring out what to do exactly, other than just, like you said, do everything
Everywhere,
Yeah, I
all
think
at
a
all at
lot of
once.
it
once.
comes down to kind of rolling up step back and putting all your money and all your eggs in the platform basket, and actually kind of owning the marketing that you do and the
Mm,
insights that you have, and let that come from the brand instead of having a dependency on third party platforms being able to target your potential audience. Um,
mm,
and that obviously means that you will have to ask, and you'll have to be interested in actually knowing how your customers are interacting with your brand. And that's obviously different than what we have been used to for the last 5-10 years, where you could basically just put more money and you would
Hmm.
get more sales, but you would have absolutely no idea where they actually came from.
mm,
um,
Hmm.
you will know that the platforms would probably retarget your competitors because you probably wanted to pay more to get a customer. So they would actually kind of what do you call that, kind of say, okay, but this customer is likely to buy, but this brand is actually interested in buying at a higher price, so we'll retarget on those interactions. And
mm.
obviously, from a brand perspective, that's not really how you would want it to be. You would want to own the entire funnel, right, for your customers. Um,
Yeah.
but that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
All right. I have one last question. Speaking of things that doesn't exist anymore, with the rise of AI, do you think that it will
Does that not
replace?
exist anymore?
Yeah, something. No, no, it will. It might be that AI will replace something in marketing. Human
Mm.
marketers. I don't know, certain skill sets. Do you think there will be a change? I mean, we already see it now, right? And I think we've been at Datasy, we've been contemplating a little bit about media buyers, whatever. Is that because Chris, you said yourself, there's so much data, and maybe AI will actually do a better job of crunching numbers, figuring out all these different kind of placements and
Yeah.
whatsoever. Do you guys think that AI will make some marketers obsolete?
Yes.
Yes.
And the end.
Yes. Mic drop. Yes. No,
Yeah.
I,
Yes.
I mean, like, I do think that we're in trouble. I think that I take a little bit of more of a pessimistic look at it, and I think maybe not that we're in trouble or that they'll go away, but they need to evolve very quickly, right? Because we're finding that, you know, for example, even on, like we talked about this morning with media buyers, that optimizing Facebook ads,
Mm,
a lot of the time the algorithm and the AI is that Facebook is employing is doing a better job than a person can, and can do it faster, and that's troubling for anybody that's in the sort of social ad optimization game.
mm,
Um, so we got to get a little bit higher up in the evaluation helicopter, and we got to get a little higher up, and maybe the what is the evaluating the output, evaluating what the algorithm is doing, maybe even like uh, be more like a media strategist and not necessarily a media optimizer or a paid social ad optimizer. So I think it's just going to be that you are more, you know, just up a little bit more strategically, and can maybe be a little bit more involved in what the AI is doing and what it's not doing, and also being able to catch where, like, for example, Rasmus brought in that, okay, but the platform is giving us purchases that maybe are a bit expensive because that's what the platform wants.
mm,
A media buyer has to be able to sort of sort that out, and see, okay, what is the place where this is benefiting the platform and not benefiting the brand, and making sure that, so that's where I would say that the media buyers will have to go. That's
Yeah,
just
I
one
agree.
example.
Yeah, it's a perfect example. I think 80% of your like classic media buying will be AI driven, or is already AI driven. Like, you'll have formats today where you basically have one handle, and that's just putting more budget in there. But I think a lot of it boils down to what type of quality of the creatives that you put in there as well. And that will come from you actually owning the insights into who your customers are. But because AI is only as smart as what you put in there, and the more like demographic and geographic and interest data that you can actually put in there, the more targeted an AI machine learning driven platform will be. And then there will always be like brands that can afford to basically start from zero and then let the AI figure out who the most potential customer is for X product. And then I think like there's only like 10% of your actual media buying that will need to be like handheld in the
It'll be
future.
the outside use cases where it's like you're almost doing things that are irrational. Like you're doing things like, okay, we know that it's super competitive in this market for this product, or we know, for example, we have too much of this inventory, we have to get rid of this, so we have to do this. So it's the sort of irrational things, or the 10% that an AI won't really understand. What are you doing behind the scenes, or what is the market dynamics here, or what's the future look like for this brand? Because you as a marketer know, do you know what? We're not selling that much plant-based burgers because of this and that. We better push the plant-based burgers, or or go after this. We know that people are more inclined to do this or that, right? So it is that 10% use case, which irrational behavior that you have to optimize for in some ways.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Interesting point. Thank you guys so much. I think that's all for today. You guys were super sharp. Good,
Yeah,
we did a
sharper
second
than
round.
Last
Yeah,
time,
exactly.
last time we just talked and talked.
Yeah.
Didn't
This
care
was
about the
on point.
time, but this
No.
was much better. Thanks, Sue. Good
Very on
job.
point.
Great.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Rasmus. We really appreciate it. And
It's
for
a
those
pleasure.
of you listening out there in podcast world, please like, subscribe, share this with your friends. If you're interested in e-commerce, social media, marketing, want to get what's happening out there, this is the podcast for you. So please subscribe. And and if you're interested in growing your social media, go to www.kubbco.com, kubbco.com. We help brands of all different sizes and shapes really kick ass on social. That's our bread and butter. So if you're thinking about that and say, hey, you know what, we need better social media, we're the guys. And Rasmus, where can people connect with you and find you and maybe utilize some of your amazing brain and genius?
Yeah, so basically go to Factor.dk. We're an e-commerce marketing agency focusing on getting brands better retention, better data on their customers, and growing their audiences and businesses.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Great. So
And
that's FACT.dk.
.dk. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. And they can find you on LinkedIn, I guess?
I'm on LinkedIn, yeah. They are more than welcome to connect.
One of those 15 channels that's on your phone, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Great.
Cool.
Basically
my most used channel. Yeah.
Is it? Okay, good. So LinkedIn is the place to message you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining us. We really appreciate it. Thanks for listening. Take care, guys.
Take care.